Hello and welcome to this review of Spring Summer 25 Fashion Weeks, and I'm going to look at a specific topic which I noticed a little bit, maybe a trend you could call it, which was waistlines. Not all positive, so I noticed lots of waistlines in different places, and also what we, if you're making our own clothes, would really call really bad fit. Of course, if it's purposely designed, it's a design choice rather than a fitting issue. But it's sort of really interesting how we spend hours getting the fit of our skirts and trousers right. And on the catwalks, there are lots of styles which are purposely unfitted and moving away from the body. So I'm going to go through some of them, draw them out, analyze what works, what doesn't work, what you might want to interpret for your own clothes, and what might not actually translate that well in real life. If we haven't met before, I'm Charlotta. I'm a pattern cutter, fashion designer, and mostly very passionate about teaching you to design, draft, and make your own clothes. If you would like to learn with me, have a look in the description of how you can too. Let's have a look at waistbands for Spring Summer 25. I have to say, one of my favorites was this, just because it looks pretty. It's very visually flattering, and it's a really nice interpretation of classic menswear trousers, and I love the high waist. Of course, you can interpret that how you want, but there's lots of little details which work really well for your own wardrobe. Let's get the sketchbook out and analyze how these work and how you can use them to design your own. What's really nice about these, that these are the right balance of fitted and loose. So there are quite a few sort of really oversized pair of trousers. I'm looking at you, Balenciaga. But these are actually, they're not fully fitted in the waist area, but they're just enough so they aren't skinny or anything, or fully fitted. They have a little bit of volume, you can see where she's walking, so there's some ease across the hip line, but it's not overdone. And what they have is these really nice pockets, which I always think are really great detail. And you have to be really careful when you design them that you get the proportions right, because if you move this line too far towards the side, it's going to make you look really flat and wide. But if you put that in the right place, it gives you really nice shaping, because of course what it does is a little bit of a pretend hourglass. So it accentuates, if that's your waist and that's your hip, it accentuates your shapes. It's really nice design detail and silhouette. What is really nice about this, that it's got a super high waistband, so you can get a really wide belt in it. So I would say it's a minimum maybe 5 centimeters or 2 inches, and that way you can really sort of style it out. And of course they've done a normal fly front, but again with this sort of style, what you can do of course is my favorite pocket detail, which is also a zip. So you can have your zip in here and have like a hidden closure. And I love vintage details like that, or sort of classic fashion history details, because you can interpret them how you want. You know, that detail will work on jeans, on smart trousers, on vintage trousers, but once you know how to draft them, you have lots of fun. And the full tutorial for that of course is on the website. But you can see that's a really nice pair of trousers. I think that's just a ironed pleat, but of course you could also stitch that in, or actually put a seam in which goes down from that pocket detail, which again has been happening a bit over the last few seasons and is again a really nice detail. Let's have a look at a few more waistlines I wasn't sure about, and then at the end we're gonna look at how the same sort of, I guess, style can be achieved, but maybe what I find personally a little bit more flattering, or maybe people would call it, if they're wanting to put you down, I would call it conventional, but I think most of us in everyday life, you want clothes which flatter you and make you feel confident. So what I wasn't a fan of, and which I saw quite a lot of, is things like at this one at Tony Berg, which was also interestingly similar one at Mui Mui. So you can see they're both waistlines which are sort of going quite high, but they're not fitted. So the area between your high hip and waist are loose. If we have a quick look at the sketchbook for the Tory Burch, I wanted to show you what is actually happening. So a conventional skirt like that would be like this, wouldn't it? It's got a normal shape, it's relatively high waist. It's actually got, I think, a yoke as well, and maybe some pockets. It's hard to see with the print. And then if you want to do the ruffle, it's like that. That's like a paper bag, isn't it? I mean, you might do a bit like that if you sort of want the paper bag effect. But instead, what they've done is they've done the same fit, but then they just gone straight up. And I would really like to know, because this must have been done on purpose. So you basically, your body is in here and you've got this sort of empty space. So now these are really, they're models, so they haven't got much shaping. But this is basically like wearing really low hipsters. That's what's holding it up. Basically your bottom is holding this up, and your hip bones, your hip area. But then to go straight up, it's just a very weird design decision, I think. What do you think? It is sort of, it's always interesting. I find interesting how certain trends show up with lots of really different designers. You know, Mui Mui and Tony Birch are really different. And actually, because I really loved the Claire McCardle collection she did a few years ago, so I was thinking, oh, what is she doing now? And this sort of was a bit like, okay, maybe not for me. But can you see the Mui Mui, they've done the same effect, but maybe you can see more the origin of it. So it's basically a pulled down elasticated skirt, which of course again is that sort of trend of oversized jogging bottoms, which again is late 90s, and that's sort of reinterpreted in a new way for the Mui Mui, where you can sort of see it's elasticated, it's pulled down, and then again they got this sort of weird slightly frilly waistband on top. So it's a real, it's not, they're not badly fitted, it's literally a design decision. It's just not one I'm quite sure about it personally. And also I think if it looks odd on, I sort of, with the Tory Burch, you can sort of see what they want to do is basically you have a slimmer silhouette at the top, and then it's sort of encased by the skirt, but the sort of skirt encases the body a little bit, but I can't see that working in real life. It's a bit like a sort of cup shape. You used to imagine if you had your lunch, it would be full of crumbs as well, so not very friendly. So these are a few of the styles where I was just thinking this is a little bit odd, and there was a very weird version, which was with Pierre Cardin, which is actually so bad I'm going to do a whole video just about that. I actually think the framing is done better, so you've got a really slim fitting upper bodice, so you can imagine that, and then the pink and blue skirt detail is a little bit like you've taken a jacket and you're wearing it around your waist, you know, or it's sort of like a really sculptural petal like skirt. And I actually quite like the idea. You can imagine having a dress like that where you have a fitted bodice. Let's draw it out. You could imagine having like a it's quite a nice neckline as well, very American. You can imagine having a fitted bodice like that, and then you can imagine having some sort of detail which looks like it's sort of a little bit wrapped, it's quite oversized. But I think here the double whammy of framing it, and then instead of it being on the natural waist, maybe it being again lower, a little bit like Givenchy, you know, like the famous Audrey Hepburn dresses that always had a very fitted bodice, and then around the high hip line it suddenly had a full skirt, which is looks fantastic on Audrey Hepburn. But here you sort of think the proportions don't quite work. It just makes, she's a tall woman. It makes her proportions looks weird. So some, shorter people like us, it just look very strange. I sort of can see the idea where it's coming from, but the interpretation, you can't really see it translating into clothes. I imagine people are going to wear it, especially the Mumu style, but I just don't quite see the design idea behind it. There was also things like this Prada, which I actually think is a little bit more successful if I scale it up. So you can see again that is the sort of oversized waistline. So again, sort of gathered, a little bit like the Tory Burch. But you can see, is it more successful? No, I'm not quite sure, but I can see a bit more where it's coming from with a Prada, but it's a little bit that sort of oversized, slouchy, it's relaxed, so it's sort of evening wear, but done in a non-fitted way, because things have been like super body fitted for quite a while now. So I can see this is a very Prada with Raf Simons interpretation, which I can see a bit more. It's sort of also a little bit like Balenciaga silhouettes that moves away from the bodice, and I can see that being interpreted as sort of quite relaxed dresses. So you have because the top isn't too oversized, but it isn't as fitted as the other ones. So you basically have a dress which is maybe like a relaxed bodice, and then you have sleeves. Of course, they've done some oversized sleeve, and then what they've basically done is a different fabric, and it's sort of gathered in, so it looks like slightly oversized when your body is more like this. So it doesn't actually fit to the waist. You can see even my drawing doesn't look very flattering. So I can sort of see the idea behind it. You sort of get where the design details are coming from. But again, it's sort of when you maybe interpret it for yourself. If you wanted a sort of elasticated waist with a jumper tucked in, you might actually put it on your actual waist, which fitted clothes, very outrageous. But you can imagine then if you define your waist, it's going to break up that very basically straight line, or maybe choosing slightly different fabrics, so it's a little bit softer, or again maybe breaking it up so it's not as long, or even moving up the waistline a little bit. You can sort of interpret that sort of same color, different fabrics, evenings, casual wear. You can sort of use the details from stuff like that and then interpret it so it actually suits your body, which is what's fantastic about pattern cutting and designing your own clothes. You can get inspired or critique what's happening, sort of understand, the sort of trends which are coming, whether you want to have a trend or not. It's always sort of quite, I quite like looking at trends, because then I can have a look what's in my wardrobe I might want to take out and wear again next season. So even if you're interpreting it in your own way, you can make it fit you rather than the model. Another example of proportions not quite working, in my opinion, was with Carven. And I sort of, again, the idea behind it is really nice, but you have sort of quite relaxed clothes, but I think it chops her up a little bit. Again, it has that sort of 1920s feel. We were talking about it a little bit in the last one as well. It's always quite fascinating how certain trends resurface. But Velvet Erdem, for example, was really successful, I thought. This one is, again, it hasn't got a waistline which is low enough to be 1920s. That's why we notice a lot of waistlines are sort of in between a high waistline and a low waistline, and that's sort of no man's land, or no women's land in our case. But you can see the idea of it, of sort of having a really nice see-through, which again is popping up quite a lot with sort of amusing organza and see-through fabrics. And then with sort of a straight line, you can sort of see, but something is not quite right with the proportions on this one. And again, if you wanted that sort of relaxed 1920s style. If you actually go with your own body, because if you bought this on from a shop, again, it probably wouldn't fit your figure at all, and it wouldn't work. Well, if you use these sort of details and you make it yourself, you can really sort of get the proportions right, so get that sort of see-through detail right, which is sort of quite nice. I'm actually not 100% sure what I think about the straight neckline. What do you think? But then you can have that sort of maybe slightly less voluminous, but I would probably either have it higher or you make it a proper dropped waist. And then this is a little bit of balloon skirt, so it's not even a gathered one. It's actually sort of probably gathered. It looks like it's sort of gathered up again. So you can sort of see how that dress would be quite nice. Or if the whole thing maybe was longer a little bit. I think it's just like there's something where they put that waist doesn't quite... It's sort of always making a statement aesthetically, but then I think for most of us, the details we want to translate into clothes, which work in everyday life, and I can't quite see that. So that was Carven, which the whole collection was like that. So it is a real design statement. Again, it's that sort of oversized, very simplistic, very laid back, pared back look. Always of the colours are very toned down. So you sort of see the idea behind it, but I think something in proportions doesn't translate that well. Let's finish off with some Gucci, because Gucci had some lovely waistlines. I really like this one, and some not so much. So you can see how even the same collection on the red, what do you call it, a jacket and a skirt or dress, we're not sure. There again, it's not fully fitted to the waist. One of the themes I was sort of talking about is how the carven, the Berk, the Mui Mui, they were all actually not fitted to our waist. They're moving away. And again, as you can see, the Gucci, this jacket is sort of a little bit loose. It's not really tight around your waist, but it works really well. They've done it on the high waist, and then the proportions between the upper part and then the lower part and then the tighter mini skirt is a really nice sort of proportion of framing. Like we had these sort of, where I said it wants to sort of cap or wants to be petals. This is upside down, but it works really well in proportion, and it's sort of an oversized to undersized. It's a nice shape. Not fully fitted, again, the jacket. So it's like relaxed and then becoming even bigger, and it has some, I think, some very oversized pocket details. So it's playing again this proportions. It's crop, but when the pocket details are really big, the sleeves are oversized, but then it has quite a short skirt. So that works really well. By comparison, I can't even speak anymore. That's how disturbed I am by the green skirt. But can you see that is just such a weird skirt? It is like, if you get back, you can sort of see, these are my worst offenders: the Mui Mui, the green Gucci, and the Tory Berk. And you can see all of them. They're actually, the Mui Mui is sitting lower, but the other one are actually high-waisted. But you know, like the high waist is like the smallest part of our bodies, and all of these, and these are models, so I don't really have the average figure. It's just not very flattering. Again, this is a design decision. I just don't think it's a design decision I'm going to reinterpret in my own clothes. So, you know, I can see this idea of maybe having a skirt and then having, it's basically a paper bag, so frill detail. You can see that's actually quite pretty, and it would be nice with a t-shirt tucked in. But it just doesn't quite work. And the same as the sort of Gucci. It's basically what it is. And then I always find this is now, it's basically very simply made, because all it is like a teeny tiny skirt, and then it's just an elasticated waist. It's a sort of thing you'd watch a YouTube tutorial for, and you make it in 5 minutes. and then they've put some lace on it. But can you see there's no fitting, and it doesn't seem to fit around here. It's sort of, it basically, sometimes when you have like a gathered bias cut skirt, it's sort of slinky, but it's not fitted, so it has that sort of gathers volume. But this is just literally like you've chosen a piece of fabric and you gathered it. So not really for me, I would say. I do like the hat, I have to say, and I love the whole that color scheme. There's quite a few of these sort of slightly muted, maybe getting quite 70s, I think, these colors. I quite like these, but yeah, you can see there was like a very, it's a strange trend, and I haven't been following the recent, like last few fashion weeks as much as I have at other times, because I can't quite see where it's coming from. I think it might be that late 1990s, because we've been going through the 90s for the last 10 years. I mean, now hit about the sort of 2K trend has been happening for quite a while now. So I think it's that sort of reinterpretation for 2024. I did it first time around. I don't have to do it again. And if I did it, I would like to do it a little bit more flattering than these very strange waistlines. So this is my review of waistlines. Waistlines I absolutely adore and would happily make for myself for next year. And then waistlines, maybe not so much. So that's it for me for today. Of course, I would love to hear thoughts and comments. What do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you actually really like these slightly shaped waists? Do let me know. And of course, I also love a thumbs up of you if you enjoyed this video. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.